So in my clinics, I very often will do something called a cost benefit analysis with my service users. And essentially, this is a form, or it forms part of an approach called motivational interviewing. Motivational interviewing was developed in the 1980s and 1990s by Dr. William Miller and Dr. Stephen Rolnick. And essentially, it was developed to help address this idea of ambivalence that a lot of service users and patients have, where they're undecided about what they really want to do. And as well as addressing that ambivalence, it also helps you to build motivation, and it helps you improve your chances of succeeding in achieving your goals. So with motivational interviewing, there's 4 key concepts really. And the first is always to build empathy. And with that approach, in my clinics, what I do is I try to create a safe, non-judgmental environment, because it's really important that people feel safe and comfortable and confident to really explore their relationship with alcohol or their harmful habits, because I really want them to have this opportunity to hear their own thoughts spoken out loud and explore that in a really authentic, honest way. So the first principle is always to create this safe, empathetic environment. The second principle of motivational interviewing, which I hope that you can develop to some extent by yourself or through these videos, is this concept of developing discrepancy. Now, what this means is, through this exploration of your relationship with alcohol or other harmful habits, understanding where the gap is from where you are just now and where you'd like to be. And again, understanding that discrepancy. And that helps understand us to conceptualize what changes are necessary. The third key principle of motivational interviewing is called rolling with resistance. This is an approach that I take myself in clinic, but also if I was teaching or training medical students or junior psychiatrists, I would always tell them, try to avoid direct conflict with somebody when you're talking about their relationship with alcohol. Again, it's really about allowing them to hear their own thoughts spoken out loud and explore that relationship themselves, but don't contradict them. Allow them to really explore this and navigate this themselves and roll with that resistance. And the fourth and final key concept of motivational interviewing is this notion of supporting self-efficacy. So with this concept, it's really about helping the patient feel empowered, and feeling confident and hopeful that change is possible, but actually they are going to be the person that achieves this and makes this happen themselves. So if I was sitting with you in clinic right now, what I would want to do is something called the cost benefit analysis. And this is important to do because I think it's relevant to acknowledge that there are some good reasons why people might drink and some benefits that they might enjoy. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. So I think this is a really honest and authentic conversation to have. And we call this the cost benefit analysis. One thing that I do try and help people to get their head around as well is that sometimes these benefits are short-term benefits and that those benefits may not always be long-term. But one of the questions that I might ask you if we were in clinic right now, I might say to you, can you tell me, what do you like about drinking? How does it benefit you? So to give you some ideas, these are some of the reasons that people might tell me that they enjoy drinking or how they perceive it to benefit them in the short term. So they might say things like, it makes me feel more confident. It helps me to manage my anxiety. It helps me to fall asleep at night time. It helps me to conform and blend in with other people. It helps me to relax or unwind. It helps me to loosen up, helps me to start conversations. There's a whole series of different reasons why people might drink and why they might perceive there to be short-term benefits. If we were in clinic right now, one of the things that I'd be asking you to do is the cost benefit analysis. So with this exercise, I would ask you to create 2 columns. Now, on the first column, it's going to be a list of all the ways that alcohol benefits you. So some examples might be, alcohol helps me to feel more confident. Alcohol helps me to feel more cheerful, more disinhibited. It helps me to manage my anxiety. It helps me to sleep at night time. I like the way that alcohol makes me feel. Alcohol helps me to blend in, conform with everybody else around me who's drinking. Whatever the reasons, it's going to be really personal to you. In this first column, I want you to write a list of all the ways in which alcohol benefits you. Now, in this second column, I want you to write down all the ways in which alcohol potentially harms you. And this is what we call the costs of drinking. So it might be, for example, that you've noticed that alcohol is actually costing you money. But it could be costing you more than just cash. It could be costing you relationships or your physical health or your mental health. You may have noticed things like you have said or done things that you regret whilst you're under the influence of alcohol, or maybe alcohol has made you gain weight, or you've noticed that your skin breaks out with spots when you've had a kind of heavy drinking session, or that when you're drinking heavily, you also tend to eat more junk food and your diet deteriorates, or that you've started to neglect other interests in your life, and that your life's maybe become a little bit more narrowed because you're not doing as many interesting, varied things, and that you're kind of losing contact with people that were previously important to you, or even other hobbies and activities like kind of sports or kind of musical interests, and essentially neglecting all of the other things that you used to enjoy. So in this column, I want you to try and really dig deep and explore, how does alcohol harm you? What are the costs related to alcohol in terms of your physical health, your mental health, your appearance, your relationships, your hobbies, your family, your friends, your career? Just write down this list of all the ways that alcohol costs you. Now, when you look at these two columns and these two lists of the ways in which alcohol benefits you and the way that alcohol costs you, first of all, I want you to take a non-judgmental, non-critical approach to the way that you talk to yourself and the way that you think about yourself. This is about being empathetic, non-judgmental, and exploring these costs and benefits with a kind of curious mindset. Then the second thing I want you to do is really just explore the kind of the discrepancies in terms of there's these conflicting views, and trying to hold these conflicting kind of costs and benefits, and really exploring, well, if I weigh these two things up, overall, do I want to continue on the track that I'm on, or do I want to change things? Am I happy with the status quo? Or actually, are there modifications in terms of the way that I live my life or the way that my relationship with alcohol? And actually looking for those discrepancies in terms of where you are just now and where you'd like to be. And then finally, in the spirit of supporting self-efficacy, I want to just remind you that you are the best person to make these changes. These changes are very, very possible. And over the course of this program, we're going to be helping coach you to give you all the skills, all the techniques that you need. But ultimately, you are the person who is in control, and you are the person who is very capable of making these changes.